And I went on the ground. I went into hiding. And while we were facing this trouble, I called back home to Nassau, Bahamas. And I said to my mother, I remember a song called Brand New World. And I said, man, I need a brand new world right now. And so she sent the record to me to North Florida. And I used to play the record only on Sunday mornings because I never went to church. You know, I wasn't no church type of fella. And so I wouldn't go near a church. But I figured, you know, if I'm going to try, if I need some help from God, at least I need a little peace offering. So I used to put the record on Sunday mornings, roll up my joint, and sing the song. I'm trying to show you all something. My sister said to me, she said, Dave, I'm at Oral Roberts University. Why don't you come to my school? Get out of the trouble that you always end up in. And I said, okay, I'll apply. And when I went to apply, she sent me the application form, and the application form said, you know, do you use drugs? So I said, well, if I can get into school, I got to say no. So I said, no. They say, are you sexually active? I said, no. As far as they know, I was a saint. And my mother became a part of the conspiracy. She wanted me to get there so bad. She found a pastor who knew me when I was like this big, and she said, I need you to write a recommendation for my son. And I sent the recommendation in. And when I sent the recommendation in, I didn't expect to be accepted. But they accepted me. And when they accepted me, I remember I went on the campus. I didn't really know anybody. I got saved while I was at ORU. And then one day this short guy came to me. He found out that I was on campus. And he said, I'm Myles Munroe. Up until that time, I still didn't know what he looked like. He said, I'm speaking at a service that they call Vespers. Pastor Jay would know about Vespers. This is like a special service they have on campus. Because see, I got saved, but my saved meter wasn't very high. I was saying, I remember I arrived on the campus, and I remember a guy came to me and said, praise the Lord, brother, and came to hug me. I was like, boy, what you dealing with? Boy, I don't hug no dudes. So I went to this service. And at the service, that was the first time I heard him speak. And we developed a connection. And you know what he said to me? He said, Dave, you need to go to communion. So he became my mentor. And I started going to communion service. They used to have a communion service every day at Oral Roberts University. So I started going to communion. And as I went to communion, my relationship with God started to develop. And he and I developed a friendship. He used to lend me his car. You know, he used to provide all kinds of advice and information for me. And let's fast forward again. So I graduate from Oral Roberts University. And he comes back home to the Bahamas. And I also met Dr. Richard Pinder at ORU as well. So I come back to the Bahamas, and he gives me a call. I was involved in another church. He gives me a call, and he said, Dave, man, I need you to come join me. So I said, okay. And that's when he had the vision in his back pocket. And as I began to sit with Pastor Richard, Pastor Henry, and Pastor Myles, I kept asking myself, what in the world am I doing here? How do I really fit into this? A short while later, Pastor Jay Mullings came along. And you know, there were several times that I questioned myself. And I remember questioning myself one time. And I said, Pastor Myles, you know, I don't really fit. He got angry at me. He said, what you mean you don't fit? He said, we need you. Ain't none of us ever been near a street. He said, we need your gift. We need what you have. And that was my assurance. Fast forward again. The other day, I have a television program that comes on weekly here in the Bahamas. And Dr. Munroe, of all the things he has to do in life, I don't know why he would be watching my program. But just about every week he would watch my program. And a couple of months ago, you know what he said to me? He said, Dave, you sound like me. And I began to realize that the vision was being transferred to me to such an extent that I started to sound like him. Now here's something I also want you to understand. In the early days before you got rich and famous, we used to travel together, stay in the same room. But he was the roommate from heaven. I wanted to say hell, but I shouldn't say that in church. We would go out and speak, and after we finish speaking, we go to dinner. And you come home at 1 o'clock in the morning. And when you come home at 1 o'clock in the morning, he will talk until 5 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock, he wakes you up and says, it's time to go. You know what else was interesting? Wherever we went, no matter what stage it was on, no matter how important the ministry was, you know what he would always do? He said, Dave, before I speak, I want you to speak. And so he'll put me on the stage with large ministries, and I would have 10 minutes. And because of those 10 minutes, people would come to me afterwards and they would give me invitations. They would say, man, we want to hear you speak. Come talk to our church. And so he exposed me to the world. Another thing that didn't make sense to me is that of all the people in this entire universe, the only person who has written a book with Dr. Myles Munroe is me. And the thing about it is that I never asked him for it. He came to me and he said, let's do a book together. And I was trying to figure out why me. I'm the outside child. I'm the bad child. Because, you know, I had rough edges. Okay? When I first started speaking, some of y'all know me from way back in the day. I used to be rough. They used to call me the roughneck pastor. Some of y'all know about that. But I used to get up in church and say anything. And you know, only Myles Munroe could have allowed me to do that. But you know what he said to me? He said, I'm not worrying about how you're reaching the people. I'm worrying about who you're reaching. And so when he saw hundreds of gang members, he didn't say, turn your heart straight. He didn't say, you can't go on the stage in dark shades or dark sunglasses. He didn't say none of that, you know. He just said, I appreciate what you're doing. I want to tell you about my last meeting with him. We had a few meetings this year. The first meeting, you know what he said to me? He said, Dave, you've gone global. I realize you're not going to be at this church much longer, full time. He said, so I want to launch you at one of our international events. He said, let me know whether you want it to be November or August. So I thought about it a little while. I wrote him an email back. I said, Chief, let's do it November. And in October, at the beginning of October, or just at the end of September, we had our second meeting. And in our second meeting, he said something to me. He said, Dave, I know I said we're going to launch you. He said, you're already global. I just need to announce it and give you my blessing. Because you see, I followed him to Africa, I followed him to Europe, I followed him to Canada, I followed him all over the U.S. And a lot of places that I've been, the reason I was invited, it was because of my association with him. You know, there was a lady at the convention that we just had in Freeport. She came up to me after one of the sessions, and she said, I've been coming here from 1996. But she said, I just wanted to tell you that I appreciated how Dr. Munroe dealt with you. She said, I don't know of youth pastors who can write books, travel, and have a national and international ministry and it not cause a problem. So she said, you know what? He covered you, but he didn't smother you. So I can't lie to you and tell you I was waiting on this position. I was on my way to foreign parts unknown. The last 2 years I spent 2 and 3 weeks in South Africa, speaking at churches that he spoke at. I've been on some major pulpits in the U.S., and all of it was because of our relationship. But in our last meeting, he said something to me. He said, Dave, I know you're going to be going. He said, but I want you to reconsider some things. I want you to think about it a little bit. He said, man, I still need you. He said, I still need you in the church. You're not in the youth ministry anymore, but I still need you in the church. And he was trying to figure out exactly what he wanted me to do, and he couldn't figure it out. So he said, think about it. Tell me how I can use your gift best in the church. Because he tried several times. This is a secret that y'all may not know, but he tried several times to give me the church over the years. And I always said no. But he said, I want you to think about it and let me know what role you can play because I still need you. I didn't understand what he was saying. I didn't know if it was prophecy, if he saw something, but I didn't understand why would he say, I still need you. The church was fine. We have a new pastor elect. We have, things are going fine. What you need me for? But now I know. So my assignment is to carry on the vision. That's what Dr. Munroe needs me to do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll be honest with you. Senior pastor was never in my vision. Even pastor really wasn't in my vision. Dr. Munroe had to haggle with me for 3 years to ordain me. I didn't want a license because I just wanted to help people, but I didn't want to be in all the whole religious paraphernalia and whatever they do in the Christian world. I wasn't into that. I was just me. But now I understand my assignment. I realize that we will have memories, which is the only thing that we'll have right now. But even with the memories, we have to be focused on the mission. We will miss him, but as we miss him and the others, we will not miss the mission. Can I get an amen on that? Now I want to be sure y'all with me. I don't want y'all just be clapping for clapping's sake. Now if you're with me, I want you to give me a good clap. I don't want to go in no fight. I don't want to go in this war and I step out there and when things get rough, I don't see nobody.